Hi, and welcome back to another AI in 5. I'm your host, Simon Chris. Joining me today is Chris O'Connor, and Chris is the co-founder of Atom Ethics. And we're going to be talking about how ethics has changed in the age of AI. Hi, Chris. Welcome to AI in 5. Thanks for joining us.
Simon, thanks for having me.
Now, you're going to touch on one of my favorite topics around AI and what I believe is the most complex part of AI adoption, which is ethics in AI and assessing those ethics, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a different beast when we're dealing with AI, which calls for a different solution, and that's why ethics is so important and conversations that we must be having in organizations today. Um, I guess if I think about why ethics are important.
Yeah, why is it different with AI?
Well, if you think about old traditional technology, right? Well, we have a lot of agency over that. We have a lot of control. So I wrote an email this morning in Outlook. I get to decide what gets input. I'm in control of the send button. What we see with AI is it's changing that relationship with technology and taking away some of that agency. So it's making some of the decisions for me. And that's a challenge, right? Because where previously I had lots of control. Now it's insidiously starting to creep into the decisions that get made by me and by my organization. Now, at the most obvious level, what that could do if you play that out is start to take away people's jobs because you're replacing things that I used to do as a human. Am I no longer needed?
Yeah.
And that's where the conversation starts often with ethics is,
Yep.
what are we going to do with the people, the impacts on the people that we've got. But the one I'm more concerned about is that more insidious sort of the way AI can creep into your organization. You have an app, all of a sudden you open the app the next day and there's an AI tool in there.
Uh-huh.
And that's happening again and again. And that can start to chip away at the values of your organization. So the things that start to be produced as outputs are no longer what are the product of the people that you've employed and you've trained and you've indoctrinated into your culture, but you've got this extra tool that's starting to shape the future, starting to shape your decisions for you. So what we're talking about there is not just technology, but we're talking about, well, the way AI works is we're starting to talk about a socio-technical system. And what that means is we've got to consider not just the technology itself. Is it, is it a good piece of technology to use, but the system in which it operates and the people it interacts with, and the people that's making decisions for, the people that's making decisions to, what inputs I have, what control I have over it, um, the data that we're using to inform those
Yep.
decisions. Have we gathered consent of that? Are we using it proportionately, appropriately? Are the vulnerable people represented in that cohort of data? Have we got their consent?
Yeah.
So you can see when you start to pull on that thread, there's a
Yeah.
lot of important conversations and questions we need to start to have.
And do you think organizations need to have this all worked out before they start, or is it an evolving field as the applications for AI evolve in an organization?
Absolutely. Look, my advice to organizations is start the conversation, just
Mm.
get on board with the conversation. A lot of these questions have no right answer, but the value is going through the process of having the conversation,
Yep.
engaging with it, not putting it to one side, but really engaging with it and thinking through what does this mean for us as an organization? It's a leadership question. A leadership questions are best addressed early.
Yeah. And you talked about AI assessment, and I know Atom Ethics is in that field. Could you just really quickly explain what you mean by assessing the ethic?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of frameworks to help with this. So the good news is there's tools to help you. And if you Google AI assessment frameworks, you'll find, the New South Wales government has a really solid one that's been in
Yep.
operation for a few years now. Queensland government has a fairer framework. National government have one. A lot of organisations are bringing in their own, and academic researchers are publishing. The challenge with a lot of these is that they're 140-page PDF documents that are a bit difficult to engage with and organize project teams. I've been in project teams where you go, oh no, we've got a steering committee meeting come up. Oh, they're going to ask for our ethics assessment. Let's quickly, fill in the checkbox and submit it. So it's a bit abstracted from your day-to-day decision making. So the challenge that we're working on is how can we embed those ethical considerations at the point of time that it's relevant to you as a project team when you're trying to make those decisions about, do we need to go out for consent at this data set? Well, that's a question that needs to come really early in the process, not when you've got a stage gate, just pre-launch,
That's right. Yeah, you're about to go into production. Yeah. Look, this is a great topic, and I know you and I could talk about it for hours, but we are at time, believe it or not. I'd love to ask you the same question I ask everybody on this show, which is, what's your one best tip? I mean, you've given us a few already, but what's your one best tip for an organization that's just starting its AI journey?
Have the conversation, start the conversation at the board level
Mm-hmm.
about what sort of organization do we want to be and how do we make sure that AI is a tool that's working for us, not something that is running to its own agenda. Play out scenarios, throw in hand grenades into the conversation. What happens if we do this? Because there's no right answer to this, but again, the important part is just having that conversation early on.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding us to bring that ethics up to the board level. It really does sit there. It doesn't just sit with the chief risk officer or something. So, Chris, this has been a great AI in 5. Thanks so much, and look forward to chatting again.
Thank you, Simon.